Today at the Finance Story, I, Vyoma Rao, have this amazing pleasure of interviewing an excellent leader who has paved a stellar career path for herself, which has been nothing short of an inspiration. She has started her journey from Bangalore and is now a CFO at a leading car service brand called Udrive in the UAE. With immense pleasure and enthusiasm, I would like to welcome CA Jarna Gaglaani. Welcome to the Finance Story. How are you today?
Hey, Vyoma, thanks a lot. It's splendid to hear such beautiful words for yourself.
So, Jarna, you are a CA and choosing the path of becoming a chartered accountant has been very different, and there's always a story attached to it. What's your story?
Honestly, if I have to tell in few words, that was the course that I could afford myself. And that is the only reason why I chose. Now, let me tell you a little bit more about it. So I come from a family, pretty much a business, not pretty affluent, can manage type of family. We had 3 daughters. And most of the times, when you come from India and when you are 3 sisters and no brother, the most common question that people come up and either ask your parents, oh, so sorry, you have like 3 daughters and you have so much of burden. And this was something that I really could not digest well, because I think education empowered us to think differently. I wanted to do it at least at my place, where I could be a person who could take care of my parents, and dare anyone come and say that you don't have a son and how you're going to be taken care of. And that probably inspired me. And I think it's also the people that you're surrounded with influence. So I had some good friends, and all of us together, maybe it was kind of a motivation that let's do CA, and I just ended up doing it, because the other thing that I could do was MBA, and that was super expensive, difficult to get in. So I thought, let me do CA.
Yes, absolutely. When it comes to commerce, there are very few avenues in India. Is that the same case in UAE, or it's very different?
I think it's not about the country. It is more from the times that we come. I did my CA in 2000, like I completed my CA in 2003. At that time, there were only 2 or 3 courses in the world. It was banking, it was getting into doing a CA and getting into corporates or consultancy, and otherwise you could choose to become a lawyer. So there was not much in terms of avenues that any finance professional or anyone coming from commerce background could take. Right today, yes, I think in times have changed totally, thoroughly. Both in India and in UAE, you have immense number of opportunities to explore for yourself.
So after you qualified CA, did you know that you wanted to join the finance domain? Why not tax? Why not audit?
So as soon as I was, qualified chartered accountant, the first break I got was with Coca-cola. So over there it was, I got into the regional finance. So basically I was already supporting a business analyst. So you understand where my journey has come from. I used to work with this lady, a strong iron lady. I draw a lot of inspiration from her. So this lady, she was a business analyst, and she was giving a different perspective to the business of Coca-Cola in southern region. So I was working in regional office and I was supporting her. So I think that probably pushed me in that direction. Even honestly speaking, I was not into accounting. I was literally into business analysis, probably providing the financial inputs for that. So I think that I love doing what I was doing, and that's what my career took me ahead also with.
Okay. When you transitioned from India to UAE, was it something that came your way, or were you actively pursuing something in search of some abroad opportunity to, make your way or make your career into the global world?
So I think it just came by the by. My husband is also a chartered accountant. I mean, he's not doing anything related to CA today, but he got an opportunity to work in Dubai, and we were like, why not? Let's try. I had an amazing career. I was working as a business consultant with Sonata Software, which is into IT and software services. So I was holding a very good position, but then this opportunity came our way, and we were like, let's explore. So I let it be, and I came over here. Yes, I would say I came here and I was very fortunate, because I think in matter of 15 days I landed with an amazing job with an amazing company. So it did not really look like a change as well.
A
It just felt like
compromise or
everything
a
was,
change.
yeah, exactly. It felt like everything was well planned, and I was just to come there and just take that job.
So your job here was as a group finance manager for Specialties Limited. How was it different from Sonata Software? Was that transition different, or it was just the finance aspect of it, so it was not making much of a difference?
It totally changed, because when I was with Sonata Software, my role was on product as such. I was working on the product. I was working on the financial part of the product. So you can imagine it was like more of a I would call it like more of a business side of the side of IT. And when I moved to food specialties, the first role that I landed up, or basically the first thing that I had to do, was really manage the finance and accounts, which I had left long back. Like I said, I've never done finance and accounts, right, before joining food specialties. But I mean, one thing that I think that I'm good at is taking up challenges. So I just took it up, and I said, oh, well, let me just try. And I think I did really well over there. I grew pretty fast in that company in matter of like, I joined as a chief accountant on records, and maybe in matter of 6 months, I was promoted to finance manager, then group finance manager. So although a stint of just 3 years, but I grew pretty fast over there.
How did Udrive happen in your life?
That's the real story. I mean, I would say that that's what made me what I am today. So while I was growing pretty well with food specialties and everything was awesome, there has to be some challenge for you to deal with. And I was basically struggling with having a child. And unfortunately, the times then were not as great as today, where people could opt for working from home or do something like remote working and things like that. People also did not understand what women professional or a career-oriented woman would need to support both of their requirements, domestic as well as professional. So yes, I had to make a choice whether I want to have a family, because I had to undergo some treatments, and I didn't know what would I need. And so I had to travel to India quite often. So I had to take a call whether I would quit my job, which is pretty well. I had really, got a lot of it in my stride, and do that, or do I just focus on my career and leave things on time. But I think I was quite emotional person to do that. So I just took that decision to quit my job and focus on my, having a child. I struggled a little bit, but finally the angel arrived in my life. So at least that was worth it. It was, every bit of it was worth it. But at the same time, you can understand when a person who is working professionally, growing, becomes completely like a stay at home, which didn't work with me. So I started doing projects. I was good at consultancy, at ERPs. So I started doing these projects. I started engaging myself in the I think finance domain again in UAE. And while I was doing that, Udrive happened. Like, I met the CEO. I don't know. I had, maybe I would say that I had not made up my mind still to leave my kid at home and start a full-time job. So I was doing things and keeping myself busy, but I was not ready to again dream big, because I had already had this experience in the past that my dream world had just collapsed. So I was scared of that. And I think many women go through it, that, they are not able to pick up themselves again, to put themselves in that place of career. And this is what I faced for some time. I was living in denial that, no, I'm not still ready for corporate, or maybe I will never be able to do it again, and things like that. But I think, again, it's the people that you surround with, the positivity and the need of the hour, that I prepared myself to take up a full-time job. While I was interviewing few places, I just happened to visit Udrive. I was called for an interview. The moment I stepped in, I knew this is the place. I had never heard of Udrive before that. It was a startup, just about a year old. I did not know how good they were doing, what they were doing, what their revenues were, nothing at all. I just stepped in and I felt this is the place that I want to be a part of. I don't know whether it was the CEO, whether it was the company, the culture, whatever, because, startups carry a very different culture. It's very open, it's very transparent. And I said, this is the place that I want to join. The CEO took almost 1 month to even come back to me. Okay. But I kept on rejecting other offers. I said, this is the place I'm going to join. And it just happened that one day I got a call because I think they were struggling with some funding. So as soon as they were in a place to afford me, they said, okay, come over. Of course, it was literally a kind of a challenge for me as well, because the company was having like no audits done since the time of the company being operated, no books of accounts maintained. So it was literally going down, digging deep, putting my hand into that and making something worthwhile. And I think that's what makes our journey of CA worthwhile, that when there is no shape and form and you create one out of it. And I think that's what landed me in this place where I joined literally in my mind as a consultant, that, I just put these things in place and then move on to some other company. And this will allow me to explore also if I'm ready for a full-time job. But things turned, and by the time I got everything ready with the company, I started involving myself in almost everything about the company, and I became part and parcel of the company today.
Okay. Oh my God. So how do you stay on top of everything? What is the secret sauce of being a CFO at Udrive?
What I really realize is most professionals, they basically see business only from perspective of their department. Whereas what Udrive, being a startup, has given an opportunity to me is look at the business from all the angles. And that allows me to basically look into what brand image we are carrying, what we are doing in terms of building the business, how are we going to source the right talent. So basically a complete, I would say, a different perspective.
There are so many women who feel that they need to, stay back home and take care of the family. No, I don't have a child, so I don't have a child, so I'm in no position to, address that situation. But I really feel that if I put some decades in, shaping up my life, I do not want to, trash it all and start something else. But doing
totally,
that,
Vyoma.
Yeah.
Today, when I meet young people, this is one advice that I always give from my own personal experience, that do not put yourself and your career at the back of anything. Like, of course, the times have changed. Earlier physical presence was a mandatory thing. Today, a lot of things have changed also in the way the corporates operate. The management have become more, considerate of the requirements that women have to deal with. But in any case, in any circumstance, I think this is one of the things that if you love to do something, just keep doing it. Because if you lose yourself in the process, then there is no point of having everything. You may have a great husband, you may have a great child, you may have a great family life, but then you lose yourself in the process. So, yeah, that's important.
You joined Udrive because you got that vibe that I want to be here. Before that, you were working with established organizations. Now you're going to, go into a startup. Why did you consider that you're going from, a well-established organization or a well-established background to a startup, and after joining back? So wasn't that too much of a risk?
It was too much of a risk. One, mainly because your remuneration is going to be nothing like the work that you're going to do, because it's a startup. Exactly. Everything comes when the ESOPs come in play. With a startup, that's a normal way of compensating you. So what you're getting on a monthly basis is basically just run your, just so that you are motivated enough to come to work. That is it. Your big chunk is lying in ESOP. So that was one risk. Second is, no one knows what this company is all about. I have worked with good corporates and coming, so it was a big risk. But that moment when you came in and when I walked in this office and I felt this is the place I want to work, maybe it was more to do with, again, taking up a challenge, that if things are great, everyone can run it. But if things are not great, and if you make it run, then there is definitely a pat on your back, right? And because I had lost that kind of confidence in me that, I will be able to, maybe influence quite a lot joining a big corporate. Yeah, I felt that this is the place where I had that confidence that, I can do some, I can just pull some low hanging fruits. I would be able to do some basic things and be able to influence. The second thing was that the problem that the company was solving, living in UAE, I know how difficult it is to own a car, especially after recession and all. Secondly, understanding that even getting a license is such a big task. And after having a license, if you can't afford a car, then you're still in the same place, you know and maybe that is what maybe made me feel more comfortable, that it's solving a problem, it's disrupting the typical rent a car or transportation industry, and that is what motivated me to move towards this.
Okay. So, as I said, that there's a process of learning, unlearning, and relearning. So, what was the thing that you had to unlearn from your previous experience where you joined the startup?
Everything. Why do I say this? I had never in the past maintained books of accounts in Excel.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Yes.
starting from there, I had never done accounting entries. Of course, because, as a chartered accountant, you always have a team around you. So you never end up doing that. When I joined in here, I literally started from the scratch of setting up an accounting department. I had never done that. Okay. So when you are in big corporates, you always have processes in place, you have systems, you have everything in place. You just need to get in and ensure that it is managed smoothly. Whereas over here, it was basically to set up those things. So I had to learn a lot of things. Moreover, it was a startup raising funds, which means there was a lot of work that I had to do on financial modeling. Yes, I had done financial modeling, but that's, it's nothing compared to what you do when you have due diligence audits every second, third day, because there are investors looking at your pitch. They are looking at, I never knew how to do a valuation of a company. You learn theoretically, but in practical sense, how do you do that? I did not know that. I learned it. How do you end up, what do you do? How do you create a cap table? How do you talk to investors? How do you pitch them? How do you do everything? I had to learn. And that's what, from a finance person, I became a business person, literally, because now I could talk about marketing, what we can do with marketing, how can we acquire customers, what is our cost of acquisition, what is our, what is the kind of a churn rate that we are having. I could talk this language, everything I learned in this company. I did not know anything before that. So yeah, there's lots that I've learned.
That's quite a journey. So, how much do you rely on your team, and what is your management style? Do you like to be on top of everything, or do you ask your team to approach you only on need basis?
So I have again transformed there. I was a person who used to prefer, if anything needs to be done, then let me do it myself, kind of a person. More because kind of perfectionist, more because wanted to be like knowing everything and don't want to lose out on some key information or relying on someone else. But as the company grew very fast, we had a lot of things to do, and moreover, I think I moved too much into management kind of a role, where we were more focused on business. So yes, I started to learn to depend on others. I started to trust their work. And I think I started recognizing for myself what are those critical things that I need to hold it with me, and what are the things that I can rely on my team. And today, I think that thankfully we managed to build a good team. So I can pretty much rely on them and work alongside with them. I'm definitely not a person who now anymore gets deep into things unless it is required for me to do so.
I just wanted to ask you that as a person who is in a leadership role, as a woman who is in a leadership role, if there were three skills that you wanted people to imbibe in themselves to, later on in their career end up at a leadership role, what were the three skills that really helped you reach where you are today?
What has really helped me, because I would say in last 3 years, I have transformed quite a bit, also in terms of how I lead and how I, basically get things executed. And one of the key reason is also the person that I work with, who's the CEO currently with Udrive, Nick Watson. So I work with him very closely, and I imbibe a lot of things from him. One of the key things that I have understood or learned from him is thinking out of the box. I think he never limits his thoughts. What I feel is completely outrageous. He says, no, why not? Let's try. Maybe we succeed, we may fail, but you shouldn't be scared of failure. Let's give it a try. And sometimes it really works out so well. So I think that's one of the things, thinking out of the box, not really going with a standard pattern. And that's what has probably led Udrive to this place where we are, coming through COVID, coming through most challenging times for asset heavy company like ours. We have survived because one of the thing is because, thinking out of the box. Second thing I would say is negotiation skills. Of course, other than my salary, I am very good at everywhere with that. Sorry, I mean, jokes apart, but what I would say is your ability to negotiate. When I say negotiate, it's not just about negotiation in terms of getting some advantage, but negotiating your position in any conversation that you are having, whether it is with your customers, whether it is with your investors, whether it is with your, when you have that ability to negotiate and put your point forth, I think that puts you in a place of leadership automatically. And I would say third skill, which has helped me well, is prioritizing. Like you said, there are so many things that was required to be done for the company, and anyone would get lost because most of the people fail at startups. They are not able to cope up, is because they always see that mountain of work on their head. And I think we had a similar case, not only in finance, but all departments required so much of work to do. And that was always on our head, but prioritizing one after the other has helped us. Definitely a company today is way better than what it was when I joined. So some things have really moved well ahead for us.
Thank you for sharing all these things. So apart from creating a brand for your company or your organization, why is it so important that we, in today's world especially, we create our own personal brand?
I think more than creating personal brand, I would say that as networking. People are only going to connect with you when they see you active. I mean, no one follows passive people, right? So I think it's more of connecting with people. People are not going to land up on your profile, or they are not going to connect with you if you are going to be a passive person, not wanting to really have a conversation. So I think networking is a key today, knowing people, because there are so many things that you want to do, and if you have the right people at the right place, the work that otherwise would have taken ages for you to accomplish, maybe just like maybe you could just achieve it or finish it, accomplish it very soon. So I think that is one of the key reasons why you need to be known, and you need to know the people that you should know. Both of this is equally important, and personal branding helps in that, because if no one knew Udrive or no one knew Jarna, maybe no one would be even watching this, right? So it's both is equally important. It can even change maybe 5 women's life who today are not again bouncing back to their career just because they are holding themselves back, they are talking to themselves quite negatively. I would just want to motivate them that just get up, take your life in your control, and there are a lot of opportunities.
Okay, so as you said that there was a gap after you had your child, and you had to come back, and you had to start negotiating your salaries and everything, but your gap was not that great. Now, for a lot of women, they are having a gap, huge gaps of 5-10 years for them to come back and ask for what they deserve. What is the strategy that these guys should adopt, while negotiating or while presenting themselves?
The first thing I would say is brush up your skills a little bit. You've not forgotten anything. You know everything. It's just you've lost the confidence. Just brush up yourself on that so that you have your say in any topic when it comes up. That's one of the things. Second thing is, I would say network with your community, the finance professionals like chartered accountants or whatever. In my case, we had, I was very fortunate that we have an amazing team of chartered accountants, women chartered accountants in UAE. And I fortunately became a part of it. I could draw so much of inspiration from them. No one is going to hand a job in your hand, but having this right people around you motivates you, inspires you, makes you learn new things or understand what's really in the market, like what is that you should know. And I think these two things would really help you bounce back into, yes, I joined, I compromised on my salaries, but maybe that was necessary so that I could build myself up again. But in matter of 2 years, tables turned completely. I proved my mettle. I proved that I'm no less than any other male colleague or anyone else that you bring from outside. I am worth way more than that. So I got what I deserved. So it's maybe you go through that little bit, because if you are running a company, you will also think in the same way, right? Because someone has not been there. You don't know how far they will work. They will prove whether they are still that hungry or not. But I have seen in most of the cases, people who take a break and come back, they are so super hungry. They basically break all the glass ceilings that anyone can set up. And that's what happened with me. So my perspective is, don't worry about your compensation, because when people see your value, they will provide whatever it is required.
So there's a lot of talks about startups in the UAE region, especially Amina. So what is your take on it? Do you agree that there's a lot of rise in the startup culture? If so, why do you think it is? What is it associated to?
Startups, we hear quite a bit about the funding scene right now in India more than in UAE or in MENA region. MENA region has never been VC's favorite so far. Okay, like we've never attracted too much of funds in this part of the world, because more or less there are enough and more family offices backing up. There are ventures that come up. So it is pretty much a new space for the startup funding as such. But considering that all the other parts of the world are not functioning in the best way possible, like Europe isn't, India isn't giving the returns, many other markets are failing because of the currency and things like that, I think MENA region has suddenly drawn a lot of interest, because here still there is stability when compared to other countries, right? And suddenly this has become a place where, of course, anytime any investor invests, they are investing from point of view of where this company can grow and what it can become. And since they do not have any ROI in any other place, I think MENA region is going to attract a lot of funding, at least in next couple of years. This is what I would say. Firstly, if you see around us, right, right now, most of the Asian countries, their currency is getting devalued. Yeah, so that is affecting them. If you see Europe, we all know what's happening there. The only stable currency right now is US dollars, and most of GCC is pegged with US dollars. So somewhere that is maintained. Yes, there is inflation, but I think one of the things that I see is that there are so many Russians, people from the affected areas, they are moving to UAE. They are looking at making this as their home. I see that the only thing that UAE requires is basically good population, because otherwise pretty much it has built enough and more infrastructure, built pretty much self-sustenance kind of a model. And if there are enough and more people residing here, then they can protect their exposure to the foreign foreign currency devaluation. So this is the reason I would say that it is much better when compared to many other places which right now they are going through a lot of turmoil.
You are a chartered accountant and a CFO at a leading car service company. What do you think is the importance of a finance professional or a chartered accountant in providing value addition to a startup?
Most of the times, what the entrepreneurs fail to understand is there are always two heads better than one while you're building a company. And that's the reason I think we all look for co-founders when we are starting. The second thing is what they fail to understand is finance people are not to do bookkeeping, right? They are to understand the numbers and give insights to you. They are a lot more beyond your typical P&L and balance sheet. And that's what maybe there is kind of a lack in people to understand this, that finance people can interpret data. And I think the day they realize this, they would all realize that there is so much value that we can get in decision making, because most entrepreneurs so far that I have met, I see they take decisions based on instinct, which is good. It can take you to a place, but it cannot, especially when you're raising funds, your intuition cannot be converted into a strategy if you do not have a finance person in that. And this is the reason I would say that every entrepreneur should definitely look at having finance person as soon as possible if they are looking to make a long-term, like a plan and things like that, because they know exactly how to convert that into a strategy and put it into the numbers so that you can communicate. Because numbers have to communicate everything. You may talk by words, everything, but until that's not communicated through your numbers, investors are not going to get you.
Yeah, that is true. Thank you for sharing your valuable time.